Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shabbat Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson. I'm going to start it off in Isaiah chapter 19 verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight, everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And this is talking about the spiritual Egyptians as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8. You Americans, chiefly you Edomite Americans, or so-called white people. And as it said, they shall fight, everyone against his brother, against his neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. There will be civil unrest, a second civil war in the United States of America, and you can see that all these conditions taking place are the perfect environment for it. And the average person out here, even if they may not have a full picture of things, hey, they can feel that tension in the air. And this brings me to a clip I'll be profiling from the brother the Hopeful Elect 3's YouTube channel titled Civil War is at the Door. And it's going to be a clip of Nick Ivan, who was a sniper, I believe, for the U.S. Army. He fought in Iraq, maybe Afghanistan. He's a so-called black man, an Israelite, and he's going to straight up tell you what it's hitting for if and when, society has that collapse, which he firmly believes that that's the case. But we know through biblical prophecy that that is the case, and it's right around the door, or right around the corner, and at the door. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
We're heading toward another war right here.
Yeah.
In the good old US of A.
Been preaching it. We're due for one. We're due for one. We're due for it. I'm telling you, we're due for it. I think eventually this bubble's going to pop. That's my theory. I don't think that this can go on for too much longer. I give it like to 2030 before. I don't think we're going to make it to that far, but we're on a slippery slope towards.
And if you've watched any interviews with Nick Irving, hey, he's been through the shit. He's seen a lot of horrific shit, and he's real cut and dry when he gives his opinion on things. So you got a combat veteran giving his speculations on the state of society. And he's been to war-torn countries and seen similar environments and the conditions that led to them.
Another civil war. And I'm not going to say I'm cool with that. I think a lot of people think they want it, but I don't think they're ready for the type of environment and the people who operate in environments like that. I don't think they're ready for that. The last thing, and I was talking to my wife about it, the last thing you want is guys like me out on the streets fighting a war with no rules of engagement, where I make up my own. And you don't want that. The average civilian's not ready for that. Like, why is Nick doing that? Why did Nick do this to me? Because only Nick matters. Only my family. At the end of the day, yeah, guerrilla warfare is a bitch. And you're my friend one moment, but the next moment, if you got something I want or I need to take care of my family, I won't let you know about it. And I'm going to kill the block. That's the way it should be. That's war.
Hey, spoken like he's been watching the men of the Lord, because when civil unrest, martial law, and Jacob's trouble pops off on the streets of America, it's going to be every man for himself. And hey, people are going to get it how they live. And the average American out here is already a degraded degenerate, a selfish narcissist that loses their mind if TikTok, Twitter, or YouTube goes down for 30 minutes to an hour. So when that's taken away, plus, you've got empty store shelves and, just chaos in the streets, hey, you're going to see a side to people you only thought was only capable in the movies. But now let's get back to these precepts. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And that word iniquity in the Strongs is G458 anomia, which in the outline of biblical usage says the condition of without law, because ignorant of it, because of violating it, contempt in violation of law, iniquity, wickedness. So, this is ultimately talking about this world not being governed by the laws, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures, but it also goes into these people disregarding the laws of their governments. And what did Irving just say? Hey, when it gets down to it, and you got people like me that don't have to follow the rules of engagement, which is another form of law, which is what the military uses when they're fighting foreign wars. Hey, he said he's going to kill the whole block. And that's going to be the sentiment of a lot of people out here when there's no more restrictions and their stomachs are touching their backs, as well as the stomachs of their loved ones. And when you go to that word cold, it's G5594, psycho, metaphor of waning love. And we know a psychopath is somebody that only cares about numero uno. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 6. I'm going to read verses 22 to 24. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. So the coming, food shortages, famines, these store shelves being empty from people ransacking them, supply chain disruptions, causing, the supply trucks not to come in, a whole host of issues. And then suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. These croplands not being planted or being cultivated, which I saw a video the other day where Edomite was talking about due to ice and their raids down in Texas, about 4 or 5 Texas farms closed down because their workers weren't showing up because they were afraid of getting deported. So a lot of crops, went bad and had to be destroyed. Hey, everything is perfectly coalescing to bring about these Egyptians fighting against Egyptians. Verse 23, and the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. And what would be a major factor causing that? Famines. And what did Nick Irving just say? Nick, why are you doing this to me? When he's, skinning you alive. And he said straight up, we could be friends one moment and then the next moment enemies when it comes between, me and my family and you. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. Hey, the word of the Lord no longer being out here because there's going to be a famine of the word, and the literal water grid being shut down because all that shit's electric too. So food shortages, no running water, the trash isn't getting picked up. Hey, a time like no other, as we're going to close off in Jeremiah 30 verse 7. Now I'm going to go to 2nd Esdras 15. I'm going to start at 19 but jump back up. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor. Friends fight one against another like enemies, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. And that modern day sword in America is what? That gun, amongst all the other instruments people are going to be using. And spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, food shortages, and for great tribulation, all the other calamities of Jacob's trouble. Again, Nick Irving. We could be friends one moment, and the next moment, I'm running through you like a freight train to save myself and my family. But 2nd Esdras 15 and 14, woe or destruction to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. That goes into, race wars, nation against nation, as Yahweh said in Matthew 24, class warfare with the rich versus the poor, civil warfare, with those going against the government, citizens versus immigrants, a free-for-all, and swords in their hands. That gun, knives, sticks, bats, clubs, Molotov cocktails, hammers. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men. And sedition means conduct or speech inciting an open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. So what? Civil war, and invading one another. And they shall not regard their kings nor princes, the mayor, the governor, the president, as well as the authorities like the police or the military that uphold the system. In that day, a uniform and a badge is just going to it's going to hold the same weight as somebody wearing a t-shirt and some cargo pants. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Everybody doing it, how they see fit in that day. What did Nick Irving say? You don't want to see what it's like when I get to operate without any rules of engagement, meaning I get to make up my law and how I govern myself out here. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to. What does that sound like? Martial law. Cities getting shut down due to pestilences, shortages, civil unrest, sleeper cell attacks, which you're hearing more and more talks about that in the news. Just a whole host of issues to lock down these cities and for you to need the correct identification to move about. Verse 18, for because of their pride, which is one of the major reasons Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh is bringing down this great judgment. 2 Esdras 8 and 50, for many great miseries shall be done to them in the latter days, because they have walked in great pride. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Egyptian against Egyptian, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor, city against city. This is 2 Esdras 13 and 31. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. We are about to come into Jacob's trouble, a point that is worse than anything you can think of in human history. And just the way Nick Irving was talking, he was pretty much telling you that, look, the average American citizen out here isn't ready for that smoke, no matter how much they say they are, because you're going to be going against ex-military like him, actual military, and lest we forget, all these drones and robots out here that they're going to roll out. Your average neighbor showing no pity upon you, diseases, food shortages. We're going to need Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Yahweh being the true name of the Heavenly Father, and Yahweh Shai being the name of His Son, to get us through these things. But now I'm going to close it out in Jeremiah 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. Worse than World War I, World War II, the transatlantic slave trade. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. That he, being the elect of the nation of Israel, the nation of Israel consisting of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and you also have the Israelite foreigners who, through the generations and the scattering due to the curses, have come to look like, these heathen nations. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is going to be the only thing to get us out of here. So the elect right now would be doing everything they can to please their power. So when these things come to pass, and you may come across Nick Irving with that K-bar knife, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is going to get you through it. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shabbat Shalom.